morning at 7:10 in the morning. It is August 21st, 2021. And yep, this is my video blog. This is Eureka Street Crypto Hub, and I am Eureka John. And every day I talk about something surrounding cryptocurrency, about blockchain technology and the market around it, and the technology, the concepts, whatever. I'm learning every single day, and this is my video blog to kind of document that learning of it. So, this is my space and my time in the morning before I have to go be a husband, a dad, employee, a friend, whatever. This is my time for myself to wake up early in the morning while the house is still quiet and to do this and to read some articles and talk about some stuff. Maybe a podcast that I heard on the commute home the day before, maybe the article that I just read, so don't take anything I say as gospel. It is just, or fact. It is just me kind of discovering what I'm learning and stuff like that. So, it's been an interesting ride so far. I started October 24th, 2020. I just was learning all this stuff in crypto, and I was like, man, I don't have anybody to really talk to about this stuff, so I'll just talk to the screen, and I'll talk into a mic about it. And as a result, I've started developing some subscribers and people asking questions. I've been interviewing people. I've started getting involved in Discord communities. I'm part of the Bankless DAO now, so it's been a really fun, interesting ride. And I've met some really cool people so far through this space. I thought I was interviewing somebody today, but that's tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be interviewing. I think is how you pronounce it is Bern Huxtable or Brian Huxtable. I don't know. He's from South Africa, so I'll have to ask him exactly how he pronounces it because I've only seen his name printed on page. But I'm interviewing him tomorrow morning, so that should be fun. I always love learning about different people's journeys and perspectives as they've come into this space, into the crypto space, because, especially being from on the complete opposite side of the world, like South Africa, they have their own unique experiences over there than I do here in Texas and vice versa. So it's always fun to learn about how other people came into the space, So far I've interviewed some interesting people, Camilo Echeverri from Meta Game Hub DAO, Humpty Calderon from Ontology, the head of community there. I've interviewed Crypto Fu and he gave me some of his picks, Devin, a former financial executive in the traditional finance world. So, and then Sammy Snake, earlier this week, he's building a bunch of NFT game projects. And the list is growing. And then Bern Huxtable is going to be on this weekend. So I'm super excited about all the stuff that this is offering, and it's helping me as well develop my audio-visual skills and stuff like that. So that's been a whole journey in itself. And I've been doing this consecutively every single morning since February 6th of this year. So let's see, March, April, May, June, July, August. So I've been going on this over 6 months now straight without missing a single day. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, that being said, let's go over here to CoinGecko. Actually, I've been mining as well. I was mining Ethereum up until the point that I did the ravencoin video earlier, or last week, I guess, or last weekend. And ravencoin's an interesting project. They kind of see it as Bitcoin 3.0. It's a UTXO mined cryptocurrency that has a lot of the same attributes as Bitcoin, but it allows smart contracts and NFTs to be built on top of it. So that is really cool. It's a whole new functionality, and it expands the world of crypto, and it allows smart contracts to be built within the protocol level rather than on top of it like Ethereum. So it adds in an extra layer of security in there, which I think is super cool. But and it allows transaction costs at a fraction of the cost and the higher speed, and NFTs to be done at a fraction of the cost. Because if you've done NFTs and you've minted some NFTs and you put them on OpenSeas or Rarible, you will know that it costs a lot of Ethereum right now to mint and to buy and sell NFTs. So Ravencoin kind of solves this. But anyway, I thought it would be cool to start mining Ravencoin instead of Ethereum, since Ethereum is phasing out from Ethereum 1.0 proof of work in mining into proof of stake. So, since it's phasing out and all that, a lot of Ethereum miners are starting to go the way of other tokens and other coins. And Ravencoin is one of those coins. There is a differentiation between a coin and a token too. Keep that in mind. A coin is a lot of times, in a lot of cases, something that you mine and stuff like that. A token is something built on top of a blockchain. For instance, an ERC20 token. Let's see here. Like Bitcoin is a coin. Dash is a coin. I think Ethereum itself is a coin, if I'm correct. You might want to correct me on that. But let's say something built on top of Ethereum, like Chainlink or Unibright or the Ren token, or any of these token projects that are built on top of Ethereum, those are tokens. Okay, so a lot of times people require tokens in order to use their softwares or their software program. And then smart contracts a lot of times require tokens, and that represent the use of those. Like Aave, for instance, is a decentralized finance program built on top of Ethereum, to where you can lock up your Ethereum or DAI or stablecoin or whatever, and then borrow against it, without the use of any type of intermediary or anything like that. It's fully collateralized. But that's a program built on top of Ethereum, and you get an Aave governance token from that in order to participate in the governance from that. And that token is worth something. But and then an NFT is a token built on top of Ethereum. But in Ravencoin, this is not a token. This is a coin. It's used at the protocol level. I'm not really sure if an NFT on Raven would be a token or not, so you might want to clarify me on that. But that's an interesting question, as far as NFTs are concerned. Is there an NFT on Raven on the Raven platform a token? I don't know. That's something I'll have to dig in and figure out. Anyway, so I'm mining Ravencoin in here, and you can see. I just started mining Ravencoin, maybe last Sunday. Not even that long. No, maybe last Wednesday, I guess. Yeah. And I already have 151 Ravencoins, $21, and that's about 4 days worth of mining. And I've even turned off the miner sometimes when I broadcast and when I work on audiovisual projects, so I haven't really had it on all the time consistently, and I've already earned 21 from it. So not bad, and if I were to keep it on consistently and mine it for the rest of the week, I'd probably come out with $40 or $50 per week. And that's pretty good. And then if Ravencoin jumps in price, then there I go. And it has recently jumped in price. With the reason I started, I did my initial video and started focusing on Ravencoin was because the value of it jumped up by 114%, and that's what caught my eye. And I was just like, oh wow, this is pretty crazy. So I decided to start mining Ravencoin, and I have so far, and things have gone well. And yeah, man. So anyway, let's go take a look at CoinGecko and see what's going on here. Let me close some of this and zoom it out so you can potentially see a little better. I know you don't really need to see like these graphs and stuff like that. So let me get this up here. There. Yeah. My dad was saying, you can't really see and read the what you're talking about there on the CoinGecko, because they're too small. So I'll try to fix that a little bit. Maybe I will do like a subset screen where I'm scrolling through, looking at it all zoomed in. Anyway, so Bitcoin's at $47,162.45. Ethereum is at $3,209.93. Cardano at $251. Binance Coin $430.22. XRP $1.25. Doge 31 cents. Polkadot 27.72. You got the stable coins of here, Tether and USD. There's two of them in the top 10 right now. Binance USD got knocked down significantly. And then Solana is in the top 10 at 71.88. Uniswap at 28.15. Bitcoin Cash 662. Terra is moving on up at 29.93. Up above Chainlink is sitting at 27.49, up 10.3%. Let's see, we got Polygon Matic up 14% in the past 24 hours, 13% in 7 days, which is really good. Theta Coin doing its deal, $7.18, up 7.4%. I see big things coming for Theta in the future, and I am, obviously streaming on Theta, so I'm pretty bullish on Theta, and the T-Fuel. And just by watching the Theta network, you can earn T-Fuel tokens. I've earned a significant amount, and I'm doing very well in the Theta network and the T-Fuel. So let's see here. Aave 411.42, that's doing well. The Graph is doing well, up 20.1% in the past 7 days. All right, sorry, I'm eating. I do this, this is what I do. All right, so let's take a quick look down here. All right, so I'm interested where Monero is too. Monero is a privacy coin, and privacy is becoming more and more of a huge topic, especially in regards to everything that's going on with that thing that they're trying to put in your arm, and trying to force people to do so against their will. And I'm not down with that. I'm down for privacy. I'm down for individual freedoms. And, if you actually look at the numbers of some of this stuff, you will see that that the cost of our freedoms is a lot more than the cost of that thing being spread around. And I can't even talk about it. See, that's another thing too. The censorship right now is so strong that you know what I'm talking about, but I can't say it out loud because the technological platforms will censor me. And we've gotten to that point. And the funny thing is I went to seminary, all right? And we studied, of course, the Book of Revelations as part of, everything else that we studied within, biblical and ancient literature and stuff like that. And I learned the ancient Greek and Hebrew and all that stuff, and the Aramaic, and even some Coptic and stuff like that. So, that being said, one of the theories about Revelations and all its like crazy language and stuff like that is that John on the Isle of Patmos was writing encryption. He was writing in symbolic speech in order to get messages out from the confines of his cell. So when it was being read down the line, it would just look like complete and utter nonsense. And by the time it got to the hands of whoever it was intended, it would be decrypted. And it was apocryphal speech and apocryphal language is what they call it. And, it is a theory, but it's intriguing in light of what is going on. And then people are using, terms like Rona, jab, even jabs being caught by computer software. And, all these other types of, the cerveza sickness, people are making up these words to put in place of these algorithms that search for those words. And in a way, the Book of Revelations might have been a precursor to that type of stuff. Who knows what was going on back then? We don't know. That was thousands of years ago, a couple thousand years ago. But, it's just like we try our best, and we still have a problem even trying to figure out even if some recent events are true. Some people still believe that Elvis is still living on an island somewhere, right? So the theories will abound, But that being said, the idea of apocryphal language and encryption and stuff like that, is really fascinating to me. And that's another reason why I jumped into the whole concept of, the freedom and autonomy of the individual through DeFi and decentralized finance, and then the ability to be able to transact and communicate with each other without the need of an intermediary. And it seems like nowadays the only way you can have a private conversation with somebody is in the middle of a huge lake, on a boat where nobody's around and the fish won't care. But then at that point you can still use long range sound detection and still get what you need. I don't know. I found a wealth of this stuff in the the Nakamoto Institute.org. As you can see here, there's an entire a ton of literature here on all this stuff. Peer-to-peer Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. This is the Bitcoin white paper. I have this here in my office, hanging up, framed on the wall, and it was written by Satoshi Nakamoto, who's anonymous. And he valued his privacy, because when you attach something as revolutionary of a technology as Bitcoin is, the ability for people to operate and transact with each other without any government intervening, or ability for the government to intervene, or a banking system or credit system or anything like that, you give a person huge amounts of power. And so he decided to remain completely anonymous. And Satoshi, or the group of people who called themselves Satoshi, did this on purpose, because human nature, once they learn, that some technology or some philosophy or some idea or whatever can be attributed to a human being, they will start attacking that human being and trying to break down and finding some weakness, because they do this with all types of geniuses. Even Albert Einstein, they find, and Martin Luther King, they find some things about their life that will try to discredit their ideas, because this other part of their life might have been in shambles. Like Martin Luther King apparently had mistress and all that type of stuff, and not the best family life. Well, why should you take what he says, with any type of authority, if he can't even handle the matters in his own house? It's that type of stuff. Or take, for instance, like Julian Assange, who's talking about privacy and stuff like that, and Edward Snowden, who are both basically running for their lives right now, and they decided to allow themselves to take on that mantle of all the tension that arises in society. It's called the scapegoat mechanism, and it's René Girard, a French philosopher, wrote about it in his books. And this is the whole idea behind Mardi Gras and the king cake. Is society builds up all this tension and frustration and anger, and in order to release that, villages would have a scapegoat, and one person where all that is vented onto, and so they got to be a king for a day, and then whenever that person gets to be a king for the day, they get to do whatever they want, and for a day, and then the next day they are sacrificed and murdered, And that's the whole dark idea behind a king cake, behind Mardi Gras, and everything like that. And, in a way, that's what is happening with people like Edward Snowden and Julian Assange. And that's why Satoshi Nakamoto is anonymous, because once you attach a philosophy or a technology to a person, then you find a chink in the armor, something you can dig at it with. And that is why it's been extremely important to for Satoshi Nakamoto to remain anonymous, even though a lot of people have tried to claim to be him, which is ridiculous. But a lot of people have postulated and speculated about who he might be. And it's been interesting, but they're never going to figure it out. Good morning, Randy. How you doing? Yeah, I'm just talking about privacy and stuff like that right now. I've been digging into the Nakamoto Institute, and I've been trying to read, I guess at least an article a week on this stuff. There's some amazing people in here: Nick Sabo, Timothy May, Eric Hughes, Hal Finney. I mean, these people are the founders, of everything that we have going on right now, and they explain all this stuff, and this is foundational literature, and I highly recommend everybody to jump into this. With censorship becoming the way it is, and technological development going into what we can say and what we can do, and I just talked about revelations and the idea of apocryphal speech and them using symbology in order to get messages out of the Isle of Patmos and to the people that needed to hear what was going on. And that is a possible idea behind the apocryphal language and idea in Revelations. And that's cryptography, and it was important then during the Roman times, and it's important now. And Satoshi Nakamoto, is, I hate to say this, a lot of people have compared him to the Jesus Christ, coming back and bringing freedom and to people. But the problem is Jesus, as I was talking about, was the focal point of that scapegoat mechanism that Rene Girard wrote about in his 1960s philosophy book. Where Satoshi Nakamoto is an anonymous figure. So when people make those comparisons, bring up that Satoshi is an anonymous figure. But anyway, so I came across this one over here. Let's see, The Case for Privacy. And as you can see, I marked it all up like I do all types of articles. So it's a pretty long one. And in the past, I've read this Be Money by Wei Dai. I've read, let's see what else I've read on here. I've read some Nick Szabo stuff. I've skimmed through Hashcash. Let's see here, the Crypto Anarchist Manifesto. I've actually talked about that one on an episode, and I skimmed through it. The Cyphernomicon, I've skimmed through. The God Protocols, I did an entire episode on the God Protocols by Nick Szabo, and that is a really good article right there. So, I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff you can go through. But for now, I want to go through The Case for Privacy and just kind of read some of my highlights on it. David Friedman is the son of let's see here. He's an American economist, physicist, legal scholar, and anarcho-capitalist theorist, described by Walter Block as a free market anarchist. He studied chemistry and physics and not law or economics. He's known for his textbook writing on microeconomics and the libertarian theory of anarcho-capitalism, which is the subject of his most popular book, The Machinery of Freedom. Anyway, he's the son of two famous people, Milton Friedman and Rose Friedman, Rose and Milton Friedman. And I don't know a whole lot about libertarian philosophy. Most I know is pretty much Ron Paul. And I like Ron Paul, and I have a lot of the stuff that he says resonates well with me. Because I do believe in individual freedoms, over fear. But that's the thing that has been attracting me towards Bitcoin and towards cryptocurrency is the ability to empower the individual against the banking institutions, against the credit institutions, and against the government using cryptography. And so I am 100% down for that. And that's what led me on this road. So anyway, let's see here. An old science fiction novel creates a device that surrounds its wearer, I guess, with an impenetrable bubble of force. The inventor rapidly discovers that every government and political faction on the planet wants what he has and is prepared to use any means from persuasion to brute force to get it. And that, in our case, would somewhat, in a way, be Bitcoin. It's an impenetrable bubble of force of freedom, of liberty to control our own transactions and our own privacy. I know there's chainalysis and all that, so we won't get into the weeds there. But the theory of it. So our hero spends most of the book alternatively listening to arguments, trying to decide who are the good guys, and using his invention to help him escape attempts to capture him. So people are trying to take him and capture him and take that invention from him, and he's trying to figure out who to side with and who to be, who to trust. When you have some amazing technology, everybody's going to want to try to buddy up with you or capture you. And you spend a lot of time trying to figure out who the good guys are. But then after 150 pages, he realized that he's been asking the wrong question. To what faction can be trusted with a monopoly over that impenetrable shield or technology or idea is no. No one can be trusted with a monopoly over that. Period. The right question is how the shield will affect the world, how it will alter the balance between freedom and oppression, individual and state, small and big. The answer to that is easy. A world where a random individual is armored against anything short of an atomic explosion will be a better and freer world than the one he is currently living in. So a world where the random individual is armored against anything is a better and freer world than the one he is currently living in. He writes out an explanation of how the shield works and spends 2 days distributing the information to people all over the world. So he decides not to keep it to himself. He decides to spread it all around the world. And think about this. Think about the printing press. The printing press, when the technology was first developed, it wasn't the fact that the Bible was written, with a printing press. Yes, that did help and everything. But one of the main things that helped the printing press was not the fact that the printing press was invented, but the fact that they could create texts that showed how printing presses were made. And they spread how to create the printing press. And then all these people started creating printing presses. And that's how it got out and really spread around. And the church did not like that, And they already didn't like it that they, could create an understandable language to the Bible that they had, scrambled up and put the message, of freedom and in individual empowerment into scrambled up language, that nobody in the common world could understand at the time. And then add to that, they put it in everyday language, and then they created texts and books that allowed people to create more of those machines that would do that. So anyway, he writes out an explanation of how the shield works and spends 2 days distributing the information to people all over the world. By the time military security, the most formidable of his pursuers, catches up with him, it is too late. The cat's out of the bag. Anyway, Paul Anderson's shield is fiction. The nearest real-world equivalent is privacy. Neither my government nor my neighbor can punish my thoughts because neither can read my mind. That is why my thoughts are free. However much other people are offended by what I write, they cannot retaliate unless they know who wrote it, what he looks like, and where he lives. And that's why a lot of people go anonymous on Twitter and stuff like that. And I fully understand that. It's kind of, sometimes I question my whole drive to come out here as I am. You can see me. My name is John. You pretty much know I live in Leander, Texas. And it's a little scary sometimes. Because I don't know who's watching this video. But I'm doing it. And it's kind of the burden. That I'm not really talking about anything super controversial either. I'm not like Julian Assange or Edward Snowden. But for them to come out and not be anonymous is a huge risk, especially when you have a family and things like that, and assets and things that you want to keep safe. So anyway, the ability to control other people's access to other information about you can be used for bad purposes too. That is the usual argument against privacy. If you haven't done anything wrong, what do you have to hide? The ability to conceal past crimes from the police and potential victims is useful to a robber, but the ability to conceal what I have is worth stealing. Where it is, how it is protected is equally useful to the potential victim. Broadly stated, privacy gives each of us more control over his or her own life, which on average, if not in every case, is likely to lead to a freer world. Anyway, let's go down here a little bit. In a world of voluntary transactions such as loans and marriages, my privacy does not require you to take me on faith. You have the option of not taking me. Privacy is my ability to control other people's access to information about me. That does not mean they cannot get the information, without my permission. Someone who offers to take care of my children but refuses to allow me access to the records that would show me whether or not he has been convicted of child abuse has already told me I need to know. So that's another aspect of it. Privacy provides me protection when I want it and only when I want it. So privacy and government. This quote by George Washington: government is not reason, it is not eloquence, it is a force, like fire, a dangerous servant and a terrible master. Privacy includes the ability to keep things secret from the government. If you view the government as a benevolent super being watching over you, a wise and kindly uncle with a long white beard, you will and should reject much of what I'm saying, is what I'm saying here. But government is not Uncle Sam or a philosopher king. Government is a set of institutions through which human beings act for human purposes. Its special feature is that government is permitted to use force to make people do things. Part of the genius of American political culture is the recognition that making it hard for governments to control people is not always a bad thing. Political mechanisms, even in a democracy, give us only very limited control over what government can do to us. And since government, unlike a private criminal, has overwhelming superiority of physical force and control over what information it can get about me, is one of the few... Okay, all right, sorry, let me start that over again. And since government, unlike a private criminal, has overwhelming superiority of physical force, control over what information it can get about me is one of the few ways in which I can limit its ability to control me. So my privacy is really my freedom. It is my power, to control somebody who has an overwhelming ability of physical force against me. So me being able to hide, I mean, any animals, you can see camouflage, and built into their detection, into their skin, the idea of the chameleon being able to blend in with the background, that is privacy, when you think about it. So anyway, where does privacy come from? Technology is one. If someone invents a mind-reading machine or a reliable truth drug, my thoughts will no longer be private as they are now, or as free. Customs, that's also a driver of privacy. The more willing my friends and neighbors are to gossip about something, it's easier for information about that something to get those who have it to those who want it. Let's see here. The final factor is law. The U.S. and Fourth Amendment to the Constitution prohibits unreasonable searches and seizures and requires that search warrants shall only be issued with probable cause. The more narrowly court interpret that restriction, the easier it is to keep secrets from the police. One important example is a series of cases that applied to the restriction of wiretaps as well as physical searches. Later cases have ruled on to what extent the use of high-tech devices to figure out what people are doing inside their houses, infrared photographs to spot illegal greenhouse growing weed, for example, is a search and also requires a warrant. Anyway, so as these examples suggest, technological developments can both decrease and increase privacy. So can law. Legal rules that ban or limit technologies for learning things about other people, such as laws against wiretaps, increase privacy. Legal rules that ban or limit technologies for preventing other people from learning things about us, such as restrictions on the use of encryption, decrease it. It used to be that one reason to move from a big village to a big city was to get more privacy. But in the village, interested neighbors could keep track of who was doing what with whom. In the city, nobody could keep track of everybody. That form of privacy through obscurity, is completely doomed. Anyway, in the city, it's absolutely doomed. I cannot keep track of the million people who share the city I live in, but on the computer on my desk, it has enough space on its hard drive to hold 100 pages of information on every man, woman, and child in the city. With a few $100s worth of additional storage, you could do it for everybody in the state and a few thousand everybody in the country. And you can do more than store that information. You could search it, produce in a matter of seconds a list of those of my fellow citizens who are left-handed gun owners with more than 6 children. Privacy through obscurity cannot survive modern data processing. Data processing is one technology with the potential to sharply reduce privacy. Another is surveillance. One form, already common in England, is a video camera on a pole. So, at first glance, it seems harmless. No more a violation of privacy than the same police officer standing in the park watching what's going on. It merely lets the officer do his watching somewhere warm and out of the wet. Add a video recorder, and it's arguably an improvement since the evidence it produces is less subject to mistake or interpretation than the memory of the policeman. Such surveillance cameras are an effective way of reducing crime. What's the problem? To see the answer, add one more technology, face recognition software. Combine that with a database, put up enough cameras, and we have a record of where everyone was at any time of the day with suitable cameras, right? And then let's see here. The arresting officer or the prosecuting attorney no longer has to ask the defendant where he was at 8 p.m. on July 9th. All he has to do is enter the defendant's social security number and the date, and the computer will tell him. And if the defendant was at a public place at the time, show him. For a slightly lower tech version of the same issue, consider the humble phone tap. In the past, the main limit on how many phones got tapped by police was not the difficulty of getting a court order, but the cost of implementing it. Phone taps are labor intensive. Someone has to listen to a lot of calls in order to find the ones that matter. The problem has now been solved. Voice recognition software, originated by companies such as Dragon Systems and IBM, lets computers convert text into speech. Police officers listening to someone else's phone calls can now be replaced by a computer. Only when it gets a hit, spots a word or phrases it has been programmed to listen to, does it need to call in a human being. Computers work cheap. Hence, I was talking about the language about the JAB. I can't say the C word. I have to call it the cerveza sickness. Things surrounding all that, any type of hate speech that these algorithms listen for and suddenly turn on the recorder, even in the phone in your pocket, and that's where, I talked about apocryphal language in the book of Revelations, with John and the Isle of Patmos writing, through the symbology in order to get it past the prison guards and the Roman censors, and to these letters to the people. And they may have been able to decode it on the end. They knew what he was talking about, right? If that is indeed the case and the reason behind Revelations. So if I were to say the cerveza sickness, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If I say the JAB, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But the software does not know what I'm talking about yet. In an old comedy thriller, The President's Analyst, the hero, having temporarily escaped his pursuers and made it to a phone booth, calls a friendly CIA agent to come rescue him. When he tries to leave the booth, the door won't open. Down the road comes a phone company truck loaded with booths. The truck's crane picks up the one containing the analyst and deposits it in the back and replaces it with an empty booth and drives off. So, yeah, the hero runs to a phone booth, and tries to call his team. When he does, the technology catches up his speech. So a phone booth truck loaded, comes and picks up the phone booth that the guy's in, that is locked in, and then replaces it with an empty one. A minute later, a helicopter descends containing the CIA agent and a KGB agent, who is his temporary ally. They look in astonishment at the empty phone booth. The American speaks first. "It can't be. Every phone in America is tapped?" And the response, you have to imagine in a Russian accent, "Where do you think you are, Russia?" A great scene and a very funny movie, but it may not be a joke much longer. The digital wiretap bill pushed through Congress by the FBI a few years ago already requires phone companies to provide law enforcement with the ability to simultaneously tap 1% of all phones in a selected area. There's no obvious reason why that cannot be expanded in the future. This was written in 2005. My current estimate is that the dedicated hardware to do the listening part of the job for every phone call in the U.S. would cost less than $1 billion, and it is getting cheaper. And you see all these infrastructure bills that have been pushed through and all this stuff. $10 million for a airplane toilet seat, right? Think again. That's not going towards a toilet seat. So anyway, if we regard government law enforcement agents as unambiguously good guys, there's no problem. The better our record of where everyone was when, the easier it will be to catch and convict criminals. So anyway, the same technology would keep keeping track of dissidents or political opponents or members of an unpopular religion or people with the wrong sexual taste or people who read the wrong books or anyone else, maybe somebody who didn't get the VAX in their arm, a great deal easier than it now is. It is true that the random government is likely less to have bad intentions than the random criminal. Not anymore. But if it does have intentions, it can do a great deal more damage. Improvements in lie detectors and interrogation drugs to learn what we think, biometric identification by fingerprints, retinal patterns, DNA to learn who we are without our permission, are sufficiently strong to have convinced at least one thoughtful observer that the best we can hope for in the future is a transparent society, a world without privacy, where police can watch us, but where we can also watch them. I would find the symmetry of that future more appealing if it did not conceal an important asymmetry. They can arrest us, and we cannot arrest them. There are other technologies. Oh my God, I'm way over 40 minutes. The solution is encryption. Scramble the message. Provide the intended recipient with a formula for unscrambling it. Now it does not matter if someone intercepts your email. He can't read it. There's still a problem. In order to read my scrambled message, you need the key, the formula for describing how to unscramble it. If I do not have a safe way of sending you messages, I may not have a safe way of sending you the key either. If I sent by a trusted messenger but made a small mistake as to who he's working for, someone else now has a copy and can use to decrypt my future messages. The solution is public key encryption. It works by using two keys, each of which decrypts what the other encrypts. One of the two, my public keys, I make available to anyone who might want to send me a message. The other never leaves my hands. So there's your private key and your seed phrase, and the reason for you to keep a good hold on it. Okay, so public key encryption provides a free bonus, digital signatures. The fact that what comes out is text rather than gibberish proves it was encrypted with a matching private key, which only I have. Hence, unless I've been very careless, the message is from me. So, imagine a world where public key encryption is in general use. Add in related technologies such as anonymous digital money to permit payments that leave no paper trail, and anonymous remailers to keep who I'm talking to as well as what I'm saying private. In a world that I can email anyone with reasonable certainty that nobody else can read the message, I can have telephone conversations without worrying about who may be listening. In that world, if I wish, establish an online persona, an identity defined by my digital signature, while keeping control over the link between that and my real space persona. However my online persona offends somebody, even the rulers of Iran, there is little anyone can do about it. It's hard to murder someone when you don't know their name and what they look like and what continent they're on. So, most can already be done using free software that runs on the computers most of us have. Now I take a small step forward to add one more element to the mix, virtual reality. And we talk a lot about the metaverse lately, using goggles and earphones. If we're willing to step further into science fiction, direct links between mind and computer, Neuralink that Elon Musk is talking about, we create the illusion of seeing, hearing, perhaps tasting, and touching. The world of strong privacy expands from text messages and phone conversation to something very much like the real world we currently live in. Just let your fingers do the walking. So two clusters of technology. One, database, voice and text recognition and surveillance has the potential to reduce privacy to the point where those who control the technology know very nearly everything that everyone does. The other, encryption, online communication, and virtual reality has the potential to increase privacy to the point where individuals have nearly total control over other people's access to information about them. What if we get both? Both the database and privacy reducing technology and encryption, the privacy increasing technology. It'll be an interesting world. Everything you do in the real space will be known to authorities, but most of all the important stuff, the transactions involving information, ideas, arguments, and belief, will have been moved to the cyberspace protected by strong privacy of encryption. It's kind of an interesting concept to think about, the meat space versus the cyberspace, and then, us not having a whole lot of privacy in the meat space, but in the cyberspace we have all the privacy that we can give ourselves. So supporters of privacy will try to get laws by restricting the privacy of law enforcement and other people to use technology to learn our secrets. Opponents of privacy will try to get laws restricting the ability of private individuals to use encryption to protect their laws. So there's two legal approaches. One is to use law to prevent other people from getting information, regulation of wiretapping and other forms of surveillance, but they do nothing to protect the vast amount of information that I generate about going about my daily life in the public view. Second approach is the web of restrictions, legal, contractual, and customary on the use of confidential information. Credit bureaus are free to collect information on people in order to advise other people as to whether to lend them money, but under current federal law, they are only permitted to release that information in response to requests from people who have a legitimate need for it. Credit agencies could not serve their intended purpose at any reasonable cost if they engage in an extensive investigation of everyone who asks for their information, and even the agency limits itself to giving the information to people who can prove they are entitled to it. And there's no way they can control and there's no way it can control who they give that information to, the person that the credit bureau gave the info to. So it just branches on out from there. That's the beauty of DeFi. I know that there's collateralized DeFi, but people are creating these trails online through their MetaMask wallet addresses. And so without knowing anything about the actual person in the meat space, people can follow a MetaMask address and see all the transactions there. And then from there, people can decide whether or not that MetaMask address is a reliable MetaMask address, and then determine whether or not they can borrow based upon their MetaMask transaction history. So that could be another way to ensure personal privacy while in the cyberspace, to be able to offer lending and stuff like that and credit to people based upon their MetaMask activity. So that, I don't know. As long as we limit our options to current technologies for protecting privacy, the outlook does not look good. That was back in 2005. Things are improving with Secret Network, Monero, Bitcoin Taproot improvements, and stuff like that. The technologies of strong privacy offer at least a partial solution. If I make a purchase with a credit card, I create a paper trail. Someone somewhere knows what I bought. If, however, I buy something over the phone, over the internet, using the digital equivalent of cash, anonymous digital currency, only I know that I bought it if the something is not a physical object that must be delivered to me, but information, music, data, and software. I can collect my purchase online without ever revealing my identity or location. Thus, the technologies of encryption and computer networking can permit us to a considerable extent to move through the world without leaving footprints behind. Anyway, I've gone on so long, I need to get off of here. I would highly recommend you reading this. This is an amazing article. God, man, I need to go. I want to finish this. There's just so much more meat in here to get to, but you're kind of getting my point. Hey, what's up, Eunice? Thanks for jumping on. This is a pretty heavy episode. I don't always talk about these heavy topics and this heavy literature right here, but I've been going through this article, and I try to go through some articles in the Nakamoto Institute. I would highly recommend going in here. I've been reading about B-money and Hashcash and all the precursors to Bitcoin. It's important to know this history and to know where privacy is coming from, and to know what they're trying to take away from you right now, period. And through all this censorship on the internet, and then you can't get anything reliable on the mainstream media. If it is broadcast across BBC, Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, whatever, it is false. Like, seriously, even Donald Trump, and I don't necessarily love the guy in person, whatever, but things he was saying, the fake news is absolutely true. It's fake news. The ability for deep fakes, the amount of falsehood that I've come across online of, people faking and using, images and pictures and stories that are like 3 and 4 years old, and applying it to completely different contexts, and saying that this is happening right now, about all these cases that are popping up, and showing these images, these people dying in the streets, that are the same crisis actors and individuals that have been used in countless other type of media publications. It's insane. They just try to spread it across. The amount of Twitter bots that say the exact same thing, that are being spread around, like 10,000 different profiles saying the exact same thing, to promote a case of fear, of all these cases that are arising. It's just insane, that whole thing about the news anchors all repeating from the same script, saying build back better, new normal, and stuff like that, just repeating that mantra over and over. Nothing you see on the mainstream media is true. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And so this is the case for privacy. This is the case for Bitcoin, Monero, for decentralized finance, to get away from the credit institutions and the banks. Don't believe a word of what they're saying. Okay. Well, that being said, I've gone on a total rant today. But it's Saturday, it's the weekend. My apologies. I will talk about some more happy, friendly stuff tomorrow in my interview, and I will get back to the tech, and we can talk about more of blockchain consensus protocols and things like that, and programming languages. So, all right, I will go ahead and start my reggae outro here. to remind you to take it easy. You know, eat a banana. Bananas are good for you. Get out and get some sunlight. Get some exercise. You know, one really good way to fight against everything right now is to eat well, to exercise, and to be spiritually and mentally happy.